and they're just really good, man. I was looking through your stuff last night on the internet. Ever heard of it?
No, I have to have help with the internet these days.
The thing is, people like you frustrate me. Like, I can't draw a circle, and so people like you that can do this kind of art.
We're gonna dive into this whole people like you thing. I have thoughts on that.
I don't know what you're grabbing out of your bag, but I'm scared of it.
Yeah, no. Well, okay, so this was my very first book cover. Are we recording?
We kind of are, but
okay, yeah. This was my first book cover, probably 11, 12 years ago. And I just want you to contrast that with where I'm at today. Like, there is an evolution that happens for every artist.
Yeah, that's crazy. Ooh, I love it. These are, man, again, I'm still angry at you, but angry at you and with you. Yeah. Well, that's how this is going to start, everybody. I'm mad at Fred Koehler. So
yay, Koehler, and I'm going to be mad at you unless you pronounce it Koehler.
I'm not going to do it. You're just going to be stuck being angry.
Are we allowed to cuss on your show?
You're not allowed. Okay. We'll beep it out. All right. You heard the man. It is Koehler, and welcome to Maybe You're Like Me. Have you ever met somebody and you guys just click? That's how I felt with Fred. You're going to love this conversation. We talk about things like creativity and the process and what it takes to get to where you want to be creatively. I loved this conversation. It was really challenging to me personally, and I hope that you do too. I am so happy you're here. Sit back and enjoy this episode with our friend, Fred Koehler. Hey, welcome to Maybe You're Like Me, everybody. Today we've got Fred Koehler, if that's how you choose to pronounce it.
Yes, unless you want to pronounce it with the German umlaut. Say Koehler.
You know what? I think I'm going to now.
Okay, because that's what the little old lady at the gym calls me, Mr. Koehler, because she's from Germany.
Ooh, yeah. Guten Tag.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to Maybe You're Like Me. If you've never met Fred before, Fred is an amazing artist, and we'll get into all that stuff in a second. But Fred, for people that might be living under a rock and may not have seen your books before, who is Fred? Give us the details. This is the worst question ever to start a podcast with, but who are you?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, so I grew up in Sebring, Florida, which is even smaller than Lakeland. But I always had a passion for the arts and always had a passion for story. So literally at 16, I started working for my hometown newspaper.
That's cool.
Yeah, Go Highlands Today. I think they still exist, but they would send me out to take photos of the dogs that were available for adoption and write little police blotters, compile everybody who got arrested so I could see all my friends who were getting in jail, stuff like that. And I just never turned back. It was like, saw my name in print once and I was like, this is what I want to do for my whole career.
Oh, that's really cool. And then that just kind of set you up. Then you illustrate books now and write and
I studied at Florida Southern College and eventually went to go work for Public Supermarkets in their creative services office. So I was using all of their tools to make the creamy mashed potatoes look like chunky mashed potatoes, or take the background out of this can of peas. And one day I thought to myself, I really want to get back into drawing. And lo and behold, the tools that I used to do all this work for Publix were the same tools that allowed me to just kind of translate what most people would do on a piece of paper, translate that digitally. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I can make digital illustrations. And they were kind of cool. And then it was only like 10 years for me to become an overnight success in the publishing industry.
I love that. It takes 10 years to become an overnight success. The thing that, and like, I think about this in my personal life, you probably have versions of this. Like, it's crazy to see how my whole life has led up to right now. And so like, for me, my dad was a kids pastor my whole life. And so with that, like, you need somebody to run sound, and I was cheap and free labor for a majority of my life. And so, but because of that, I learned the production side of things. So now I can walk into any concert or any like event space and have a fair idea of what's going on and can help out if I need to. And so, or even like things like the podcast, like doing digital recording stuff. It's just fun seeing how your life leads up to it. And so it's cool that, like, starting from a little newspaper, taking pictures, that like everything just progressed to now I'm looking at your books in front of us here, and I'm mad at you because your art is so good, man.
Well, thanks. Yeah, and I love looking back at where we came from, because it's so important. I'm a third generation fisherman. My granddad was a commercial crabber, so he came back from World War II and couldn't find any jobs, so he went out in his little boat and he collected the blue crabs in out of Homosassa. And my dad, kind of followed in his footsteps and loved to fish and be outdoors. And like end up being the sort of stories that I love to tell. So
Yeah.
in my books, you will see special attention paid always to boats, to water, to outdoor adventures. So that's it becomes your voice, right? Where
Yeah.
you were becomes the voice that makes you distinct today.
That's really cool. Just for fun, do you enjoy fishing as well?
Oh yeah. In fact, I made us do this podcast early today on the off chance that I can sneak over to Tampa and be fishing by sunset.
I believe in you. Catch something for us. If you do, post a picture, tag us on it. That'd mean a lot to all the listeners out there.
I didn't say I was a good fisherman, but well, I'll get a sunset photo at the very least.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. That's what the people want. Give the people what they want. All right. So on Maybe You're Like Me, we're talking to people like you that are doing really cool stuff. And even though it was a 10-year overnight success, if you're just watching you online, you think that you've got it all together, that you've got it figured out. And so the goal here is to get past the filters. Like I know you're a good, cool person, but we've all got hopes and dreams. And then we've all got our little picadillos that we're trying to work through. So for people, but if we're going to get past all that stuff, we got to start with it. So if people are just like seeing you online, like what's your highlight reel? What's your I'm putting my best foot forward. What's your elevator pitch for Fred?
Yeah. I mean, literally like whenever I send out something on submission, this is how we get our new books published. So that, you have your agent sends it out to all the editors that they think might be interested in it. But I literally put my highlight reel on the back. So let's see here. Fred has won a Boston Globe Horn Book Honor for his illustrations. He's gotten several starred reviews from Kirkus. He's been juried into the original art show for the Society of Illustrators. He's been a Best of the Month for Amazon and a Best of the Year of the New York Public Library. Yeah. I mean, those are some pretty decent awards for the books,
That's a good highlight reel. The how close were we to getting a Caldecott?
I was on one single human being's long list for it. For one of the books. But that's as close as I've ever been.
That things I remember from elementary school library, like teaching is the Newbery and the Caldecott? The
Newbery and the Caldecott, yes. Yeah.
All right. So
and every author's, living dream is to be recognized in that way.
Absolutely.
I think some of us in the children's space, at least, and some of us are there for the riches, and some of us are there because we just want to make amazing books. And I don't know, I stride both at this point because it's hard. Like living the artist lifestyle means that you make a lot of sacrifices so that you can take risks.
Yeah.
And that's for anyone with any creative dream that they want to follow. You can't bet the rent money, but you can bet the vacation money.
For sure.
You can bet the money you were going to use to build a swimming pool. You can put a lot aside. You can drive a truck with 210,000 miles on it, which is where mine's at today. But all of those small sacrifices have created opportunity to not have to take 40-hour-a-week jobs and to have extra time to spend on becoming a better artist and making cool art.
Yeah, I love the thought of you pick your priorities, and if your priority is to still be able to eat and then also do what you love, sometimes you got to cut some corners in some other places.
Yeah. Sorry. So we were off topic there.
Nope, not at all.
Oh, okay. Well, then we're still on topic.
This whole podcasting is just kind of a recorded conversation. So
awesome.
I think at least this is the first one I've ever listened to. So
cool.
So we're making the rules here. It's my podcast. I'll do what I want. All right. So I do things in a couple of rounds. This is the first round. So I call it the first date round because when you're on a first date, you ask a bunch of questions, and I could ask you what your favorite color is, but what is your favorite color?
Gray.
Oh, good. All right. Very millennial of you, even though I think you're probably Gen Xer, or somewhere in there.
Somewhere in there. Yeah.
But yeah, so like you want to ask questions that don't just like give you like a little bit of information. You want like some things that you can build a conversation off of and
Sure.
get to know somebody a little bit better. My favorite color is probably blue in case you're wondering. But just for fun, if a friend asks you, what's a book recommendation you would give them? So let's start there. What's a book rec?
So yeah, I'm a big fan of fantasy and sci-fi. That is mostly what I read. And right now, you know what? I'd never read it before. This is going to sound a little nuts, but I'd never read the books that follow the 3 good Star Wars movies. So, the original 3 Star Wars movies, there's a trilogy that comes right after that that's super duper. So that's what I'm reading through right now.
Okay.
Those were written by Timothy Zahn, and I believe it's called the Thrawn trilogy. Where we follow Grand Admiral Thrawn on, as he takes over from the Emperor and tries to, and I won't spoil it for you, but
please don't.
Yeah.
No.
But and those were written a while ago. But for current authors, there's this guy, he's a writer, fantasy writer and illustrator. His name's Henry Neff.
Okay.
And I recommended his books to my son, who is just now about to turn 14. And he devoured this entire series. It's called the Tapestry series. He devoured that series in like a week. And then because I'm also a writer, I wrote to my friend Henry, who is the author. And I was like, listen, my son just loves your stuff. And Henry sends him like some framed artwork and, just like some cool swag.
Unreal. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's one of the fun things about the industry is getting to know the people who actually make the books. And then you get to give them shout outs on other people's podcasts.
There you go. No, that's great. So this is like a random dumb thing, but like sometimes like if you're looking through a book or through, I don't always think like, I wonder what the illustrator or like what their life is. And so it's cool that like they're just real people living real lives and they've got real friends or real connections inside the illustration industry.
Absolutely.
And that's cool that like you've got a community and friends who are doing this stuff. That is awesome.
That's really the best part because what I tell people about the community that I've found sort of in the writers and the publishing industry is literally you go to one of these conferences and you're surrounded by people who are the same flavor of crazy as you are. and for those 2 days or however long you get to spend together, you feel like you're in home.
Yeah.
And then you go back to your regular life and then it's drudgery for, the next 3-4 months until that next time that you get together. And I mean, I think I would say that, that mirrors faith journeys in a lot of ways as well. This whole concept of feeling home, and finding home. Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool when you can find, even like if it's in a group or if it's just in a person, you can find community or friendship or like some compatibility. And honestly, that's like a big part of why I started this thing, because you see people out in the world and you're like, they can't be like me. Like I feel like you're so siloed off in your own thoughts and fears and stuff, but it's so fun that there's people just like you who like you're looking for that fix of friendship at a conference and like, or even like a boost of encouragement that there's other people out there like me. And so that I love that, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is hard. It's so hard for the creatives because most of us are introverts.
Yeah.
And so, the option of a random invite out to, I don't know, to Chili's to hang out with people versus an evening at home reading a book or, doodling on my sketch pad, like, it's going to be really, really hard to tear me away from the cool creative thing that I'm actually excited about.
Yeah.
Even though you're probably a really cool person and the conversation would have been great and the watered down drinks would have been 2 for 1,
I think that's Applebee's after 11 o'clock.
Oh, sorry.
All of the above. It doesn't matter. All right. So let's keep it going here. All right. Do you remember like what the first cartoon or comic or whatever that just like really lit you up and really made you want to pursue art? And like, what was that first one that like just really hit you? It could be a movie. It could be anything.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Disney's The Great Mouse Detective.
Okay.
Yeah, so all those old Disney movies where they were, cell animation, they were hand drawn.
Mhm.
Like I was just fascinated.
Yeah.
And Saturday morning cartoons were great as well, but Disney just brought the storytelling to a whole other level. So with all that's going on in the world today. I'm not even going to comment on, what's going on today, but when I was growing up, like Disney was bringing it artistically.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah. And so I just wanted to be one of those guys.
Yeah. That like there was like a new golden age of cartoons that came out by Disney in the late 80s, 90s. And I remember the same thing. Like I was so sucked into all the stories. Like you got Aladdin and
Right.
Great Mouse. Like I probably wore out all those tapes just
Yep.
over and over and over. All right. So same question, but right now, like what's something that you're seeing out in the world that you're just like, whoa, this is so stinking cool. I wish I could be a part of it.
Oh man, that's a great question. You know, it- so the franchises that are out there now, I feel like some of them are on the upswing and some of them are on the downswing.
Sure.
Unfortunately, I think Marvel kind of peaked with Infinity War.
That was a
Like
great movie.
yeah. And now some of the stuff that's come out after that, I'm like, well, okay, that's something you could do with Ant-Man, I suppose. But I love to see these giant, enormous universes that have still stories left to tell inside them. And
Yeah.
and Star Wars is probably one of the ones that today still has a lot of room for really, really cool things to happen. And so they had what they had done was like given several different animation studios an option to do a 15-minute short that was just going to be set in the Star Wars universe. And so it was really fun to go through and see. They called it the Visions series, and it was cool to go through and see what all these different animation studios came up with in like if you could set a story in the Star Wars universe, what story would you tell? And like that's a prompt that any creative anywhere is going to be like, sign me up for that. Actually, take my money. I'll pay you for that opportunity. Yeah.
The in the same, did you say that was Sony that did that?
That was Disney. As
Disney?
Well. Yeah.
That for me, the things that Sony's been making, so like Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse,
yeah.
like the creativity in those has been so huge. Also, I don't know if you watch kids movies still, but Mitchell's versus the Machines is also Sony Animation.
Yes.
And it's just like, it's so dumb creative and it still packs a bunch of heart and a bunch of fun into it. And so I love what they're doing. I see that and I'm like, I want to make something fun and like hard hitting and fun like that. So,
well, and so here's where the rubber meets the road in terms of that becoming a reality. So, I work on a children's book and I create the characters and I license those to a publisher, and the publisher distributes, those books for me. And if it does really, really well, then maybe somewhere down the road, a studio says, you know what, that's an interesting piece of intellectual property. We'd like to option that for exploration. And so, every single story that I write, I'm writing with in mind, this could become a franchise one day. This could become a film. This could become a television series. And so from the beginning, I'm envisioning my characters that way. I'm trying to build my worlds with enough space to tell many, many stories inside them. Because the reality is that if I stick around this industry long enough, then something's probably going to pop at some point.
Yeah, like I'm excited about the future for you of that thing that hasn't happened yet, but in 11 years will be an overnight success.
Exactly. Yeah.
An overnight movie success. I love it. All right. So the next round is a round I like to call the slow round. So it gets a little bit past like just things like what's your favorite book, but gets to the heart of who you are. And we've all got layers. If you want to pull a Shrek analogy, we're all onions. And so we want to get to know maybe a little bit more past what's your favorite color, which again is gray and is fantastic. But this one is especially in the creative world. And I feel this a lot. And so I like to ask other creatives, do you struggle with confidence? It's like our jobs are very much based on like what we can produce. And so confidence, the phrase is confidence is key, but does confidence ever come into play with what you're doing?
Yeah, in our world, imposter syndrome is everywhere, and even the most successful writers and artists get it. I I was born with probably slightly more confidence than I should have had, which is, it's almost like the swagger that you have to bring. Like, so it's almost like the two different hats that you wear. So sometimes you're wearing your writer hat and your artist hat, which is the one that has zero confidence at all and is convinced that everything that you create is crud and nobody's ever going to want to see it. And then when you go on podcasts and when you stand up and speak, oh my gosh, if you go and speak to children at a school, which I have to do, and draw an elephant for them, like, if you don't do that with confidence, they will eat you alive. Children are vicious. So I worry, and it wakes me up at night wondering, like, hey, this story that is right now just an idea for a story, and it went out on submission 4 weeks ago, and we don't have any offers on it yet. Is it that bad? Like, I put hundreds of hours into just getting it to where it is now.
Yeah.
And nobody's writing back, and so, like, those are the kinds of moments where you're like, is this the end? Like, well, because that's the best I can do. And if nobody buys that, then what, is my career over? And I mean, that's, those are those dark whispers that you have to learn to ignore.
Yeah.
If you want to, actually, maybe you can't ignore them. I don't know. Can you ignore yours?
The thing is, I don't know. Because I think it's easy to fall prey to them, and then and like listen to if you're talking about like the angel and the demon on your shoulders, it's easy to listen to the wrong side of it, and to push, or like to just wallow in that lack of confidence. But what I like, the same question to you, but do you have sounding boards? Do you have people that, like, do you have like a safe space or a community or a person, or like a tree you sit under that, or like, do you do like a dance montage at some point, and then like you've like revitalized yourself to crush the world again, or like what, like, how do you get yourself out of that spot?
Yeah. So typically I go fishing.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's kind of, like I said, my dad was a fisherman. And so whenever I'm out on the water, I feel connected, to him. And he was also a big supporter of me artistically when I was young. Like, I feel like a lot of parents would have told their kids, like, why would you pursue the arts? You're going to starve to death in a 1-bedroom apartment in New York City, warming your hands over the last candle. But my dad was never that way. And he would drive me to art camp, and he would, it's not like he was like, great job, son, but he never told me to stop. And maybe that's where some of that uncommon confidence comes from. It's when nobody ever tells you to stop, you don't, you keep your foot on the gas.
That's really cool. I like it that you've got like a practice or a thing to do that you can help, like, kind of, some people would say recenter yourself, or like kind of get your head in the right spot. And I think that's great that you've figured that out for yourself, so that you can like reset if you need to.
Yeah. And if it's a really like bad moment, I try to take myself regularly to the Florida spring systems. And I don't know, I'm a huge fan of nature in general, but we have all these first magnitude springs here in Florida, and you can literally like swim and snorkel and dive down to the spots where the earth opens up and gives us her water. And like, you just lay there in the stream of life coming from from the earth. And it's like, yeah, like, this is cool. Like, what else matters?
Yeah. For listeners out there, just be warned, it is very cold. So
yeah, go in the summertime when it's hot.
Yeah. So this is not on topic at all, but when my son, we've got 2 boys, but when my oldest son was, I think, probably 2-ish, we went with some friends to canoe up in one of the springs. I couldn't tell you which one. And the very first thing, like, I'm not a huge outdoorsman. I am huge sometimes, but not outdoorsy. And so we get the canoe, and my wife is up front. My son's in the middle, wearing his little life vest, and we're about to push off and get in. And I don't know why, but we didn't get out far enough. So the boat still had pivotability. And so the very first thing on this day with all of our friends is me knocking our canoe over and dumping
Boom.
my
Yes.
wife and son into the water. It just started the day off great for everybody. And it's a fun story to still tell.
Yeah.
But yeah, so back to more important stuff. But yeah, confidence is, I don't know if I've got it all figured out. I don't know if any artist has it figured out. And it's, for me, it's comforting and good to know that people like you that even 10 or however you're so young, you're probably 25. So you've been at this for 5-ish years now.
Yeah. Right.
But like people like you that like you're making these incredible things that make me irrationally angry, that there's still days that you don't feel it. You don't feel like putting pen to paper. You don't feel like doing the thing that gives me a little bit of hope that I'm not alone.
Yeah. Yeah. And we always try and break the work up into the stuff that gets you excited and the drudgery, and I think of it like doing the chores, so there's parts of illustration, there's parts of writing that feel like I'm doing the chores today, because there's different elements of it. Like structure is not one of my strong suits. Neither is perspective and drawing people. Oh, if I have to draw hands and feet and faces, like those, those are going to be like the most drudgerous, if that's a word, hours of my day. And so knowing that within every work session, I'm giving myself to do the stuff that I really, really love to do, which is, composition and free flowing line work and stuff like that, combined with, I gotta make sure all the verb tenses are correct. That's you can create a balance that way. Yeah.
My kids, they do the worst job they eat everything they like on their plate first.
Bingo.
And then they save the peas for the end. And I'm like, guys, you should have mixed the peas in and you could have eaten a bite of this and a bite of that, but nope. Now you're stuck eating peas at the end here, guys.
Yeah. Who invented peas anyways?
I don't know. And then sometimes you got to cut the background out of a can of peas and it just makes life difficult.
Yes.
All right. Here's another question. This is the last one in the slow run here, but what do you wish that you spent more time doing 5 years ago?
Ooh, that's a good question. Buying Bitcoin.
I saw a question on, it was an Ask Reddit the other day, and I'll probably ask this as a real question at some point, but it was, if you could send a 3-word message to your 10-year-old self, what would you say? And a lot of the responses were like, hug your dad, or like some like real sweet things. But some of them were like Bitcoin, Amazon, and there was one like Apple. Yeah. And it's like, make yourself some money. But
well, and I'm happy. Like, I want to talk about money because it is so important for anyone who wants to be an artist, and that would be some of the messaging that I would send backwards to myself 5 years ago. And this is so right about 5 years ago, I was illustrating a book called Flashlight Night, and it's my favorite one that I've illustrated so far. I did it all by hand in pencil, scanned in the pencil drawings, these enormous pencil drawings, scanned them into Photoshop, colored them digitally, made this beautiful book that didn't sell enough copies to earn out the advance that they gave me. And so literally I worked for 10 months on a project that probably ended up paying me $6 an hour, and my daughter needed braces and I couldn't afford the down payment. And I bought a do-it-yourself dental kit for myself, to scrape the plaque off the teeth, because I just didn't have 60 extra bucks to go, get a cleaning done. So like you have to be able to know when the dream needs to be put on a shelf. And it never has to be put on a shelf permanently. But there have been 2 or 3 times now in my career where it's like, okay, I got to go get a job for a little while.
Yeah.
And, and that's okay. And so I think that's what I would have told myself 5 years ago, is that you're going to have to go get a job for a little while, and it's going to be okay. You're going to get to take that dream back off the shelf, and know that you have done right by your family,
Yeah.
and know that you have, taken care, you haven't cheated anybody, you've taken care of the people in your life, and you did the hard work when the hard work was demanded of you. And so now there's so much freedom in getting to come back to all of the dreams and pursue those things.
Yeah, I remember I was in my mid 20s and I had a bunch of friends who like you're in like that early adult life, and he was, I think he was trading stocks or something and it was just like it was monotony. He just was not happy with it, and he's like, I really want to be out. And he's a musician. He's like, I want to be out playing music. I want to be out doing these things. And I was like, right now, man, your job is giving you the opportunity to stay alive so that you can pursue your dream. And so for me, it was me telling him like, don't let your job hinder you from doing the thing that you love. And it's also giving you the opportunity to potentially like set yourself to do that in the future. And so,
Yeah, and so for me, when I found a gig that was let's say about 7:30 a.m. until 4 p.m.
mhm,
And so and it was in another city. So I drove and I got to that city at 5 a.m. and I
mhm,
found a McDonald's that was open at 5 a.m.
mhm,
and I sat there and I wrote and I drew for the first 2 hours of my day. Then I went to the gig and then I wrote and I drew on my lunch break. And then I did a great job for the people who hired me for good money.
yep,
And and just until it became apparent that I could go back to the dream.
yeah,
So that's not like super encouraging, I don't think, for listeners out there, because what we want in this culture, at least what I experience in the American culture, is I should just be famous
absolutely.
and riches should follow. But that's magical thinking, and unfortunately, sadly, like once you get past, like maybe 35 or so, like the magical thinking um has to disappear, because if you can't build a plan around it, if you can't build the discipline around it,
Mhm.
then you're literally just going to blow through every penny you've got.
Yep. And I think at some point you have to build priorities. And so like, I think back to like what I was saying about my friend earlier is like, your job isn't who you are. And so, if you've got a dream, like like you hustled so that you could pursue your dream. And so, taking every kind of side minute to do what you had to do to jot things down in the car or at a McDonald's. And like, God bless you for getting up early and going to a McDonald's. That is a lot of people's definition of hell, is being at McDonald's at 5 a.m.
I put on 10 pounds eating their breakfast until I started having oatmeal at home, and then just getting the coffee.
There you go. Yeah, I could go for a sausage, egg, and cheese McMuffin right now.
Nope. It's the McGriddle or nothing.
A McGriddle or nothing. But yeah, like I like that side of things, that like if you've got a dream worth pursuing, then you'll find the time and you'll find the space for it. And if you are a thought out human being, and like you realize that your life doesn't only affect your life, and so if you've got kids, like you're doing what you need to do to put McGriddles on the table,
Yum. And yeah, and I'm sure you could probably tell me who said the whole thing about 10,000 hours, the 10,000 hours that it takes at doing a thing before you can become a master of it.
I think it's John Bon Jovi. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Well, ask the fact checkers.
All right, yeah, we'll ask the fact checkers. But I found that in art, and one of the things that we talked about at the very beginning was I was comparing the book cover that I have out on submission now to my very first book cover, and we're looking at both of them right now. And when I look at it, I see the same heart in both drawings, and I see the same emotion, but just the structure, the discipline, the things that I learned how to do better over the last 10,000 hours of illustrating, 8, 9, 10 books.
Mhm.
That's what's made that difference. And so, it took the first 10,000 hours to get my foot in the door.
Yeah.
If I can get 10,000 hours additionally into this industry, I'm going to be unstoppable.
Yeah.
And that's just literally the law of big numbers.
Yeah. That it's cool that, especially I can imagine in the first 2,000 or 5,000 or 8,000 or 9,000 hours, there's got to have been a ton of times where it's like, this is impossible. This is not worth pursuing. But the tenacity to stick with it and to like it, having dreams is great, but putting the work to them to make them into something, it they like, so I'm in this podcast space, and so I'm always reading articles, and they say that if you make, I think it's 20 episodes, or if you make 21 episodes, you are in the top 1% of podcasters.
Wow.
Because if you people like they do what I did, I thought like, I'm going to do this. And then the smartless guys are going to be like, Mike, how did you do this? This is amazing. And Oprah was going to call me and be like, oh my gosh. But like those calls didn't come. And so, but so you have these like big ideas of grandeur, and then you get 20 episodes in and you're like, oh man, this episode's got 10 listeners. What's going on here? Or like, sure. I read online, people are like, I've got 5 listeners. I'm calling it quits. And so the tenacity to just stick with it is where, if you can stick with it, that's where the prize comes in. That's where the payoff comes in. So,
yep. Yeah. And I'll circle it back to community, for that journey, because if you do it alone, all you're going to find is heartache.
Yeah.
And so, when I was trying to break into the industry, those 10 years that it took to become the overnight success,
yeah.
I would save up my money and my vacation time, and I would go to 1 conference a year if I could afford it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 2 if I did both local conferences here in Florida. And every year I would redraw my entire portfolio in between conferences. So I would get feedback from other writers, from other artists, and from industry professionals.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would take that feedback and I would come back and I would redo the work. And what was crazy or cool was that over time, I was getting rejected the whole time. Nope, sorry, your work's not ready. Nope, not ready.
Yeah.
But those rejections got nicer and nicer. And then they got to the point where it's like, you know what, Fred, you got something here. Like, this is pretty good. Really, keep at it. You're almost there. And then that conference when I went, and that art director from one of the big 5 publishing houses looked at my stuff and said, you're there. It's time. Let's get you a book deal.
That's cool.
Like,
yeah.
that's the journey.
Yeah. The same thing I saw, it was a talk. Do you know who Andy Pizza is?
No.
All right. There's a guy named Andy J. Pizza. He's an illustrator. He does kids books as well. And he early in his career, he got a contract to work with Nickelodeon. And he talks about like how like growing up, he loved Nickelodeon. And he put, like he said, he put blood, sweat, and tears, heart and soul into these drawings because he was going to get to do a bumper for Nickelodeon or something. And he sends them the stuff, and he's just expecting like praise. And they're like, these are, they wrote him back and said, these are great mock-ups. We can't wait to see the final product. And he's just talking about how he was crestfallen. And then everything we've been talking about, how it took him years, like of the 10,000 hours, just putting in his time, and to the point that he finally did get his stuff on Nickelodeon, but just like the tenacity to stick with it.
Yep. And for any writers who are listening, I'm going to do a plug for our community. It's called Ready Chapter 1. And this was my pandemic project. I took my local writers group. We moved it online. Now we've got some really cool tools for writers where you can post your work in progress, get feedback from other writers. It's got a cool rubric, so you actually get like a scoring system on your story for your voice, your character development, all that kind of stuff. But just visit readychapter1.com with the numeral 1.
I like it. I'm going to sign up today, honestly. Yes. That's going to be great. And everybody, if you're a writer out there, like, you need community, you need people around you that'll help you, and people that want you to succeed. And so being a part of a community like that, that's amazing. So, all right, there's one question we ask everybody on the podcast, and it could be as small as you learned how to use dental floss differently, or it could be as big as you're learning the cosmos. But what's something you're learning right now?
I'm learning business. And as an artist, again, that magical thinking, it's all going to happen. It's all going to work out. And so, like, literally from after this, I go to a meeting with a business coach who because, for our community, we developed some technology, we built a platform, we got investors, and like it's literally like, and now we have to go through the whole like venture capital startup, world thing, which I will go walk into every single one of these meetings and I say, hey, I'm probably not like the rest of the founders out here because I'm an artist and I draw elephants. And then they're like, oh, we have some work to do, Fred.
Yeah.
But it's such a good approach because I get to be a sponge. And what it's helping me do is learn how to ensure that other artists who are on the same journey don't make the same mistakes that I do I did. Because if I can set up our community the right way and I can create paths for other writers and other artists, that literally our whole company is going to be designed by someone who has felt every pain point that you're feeling right now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make sure to not be the kind of company that takes advantage of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of gatekeeping in like even if it's just like knowledge like on things. So like earlier you're talking about like you start with a concept and then you flesh it out and then it goes to an agent and the agent goes to publishing companies. Like me just like kid fresh off the bus. I'm like, I want to write a book. Like there's so many steps in between me and book. And like, there's so many steps between me and a publisher wanting to like advance me money for a book. And it's not going to be the millions of dollars that I think it is. And
yeah. And you know what? I'm glad you brought that up because I actually like took that whole section of advice that I've been asked for, 1,700 times. And I literally built it into like a roadmap. It's like, here are the actual steps that you will have to go through to get from, hey, I want to be a writer to, hey, I've got a book deal.
Mm-hmm.
And for all of your listeners, we can post a link to it, like something like that. So
it'll be in the show notes.
Perfect.
I can't wait. Yeah. All right. That's so cool. Thank you for that. I just love that. All right. So this is my favorite round. I don't know if you're ready for this, but it's called the Common Ground round. It's where you and I actually see if maybe you and I are a little alike.
Okay.
And so right there, you got some 3x5 cards and a Sharpie there.
Nice.
And so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to ask you 5 this or that style questions.
Okay.
We'll reveal our answers at the same time. And we'll see if maybe you and I are a little alike. You ready to do this?
Do I write on the blank side or on the line side?
I want you to follow your heart on this one.
Okay.
I usually go line side, and I'm just going to go ahead and pre-warn you. I've told you many times I'm jealous of your artistic and penmanship abilities. My penmanship, not quite there.
All right.
All right. So this is for the rest of time. If you had to strictly do art in pastels or in black and white, which way are you going? All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. I went black and white. He went black and white. And we even both abbreviated it to B and W.
Yes.
Any reason?
It was my first love. I mean, like pencil drawing, graphite, like I didn't learn color until much later on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Okay. So even just the side comment, that's a crazy thing that like you didn't learn color until later.
Oh, so, okay. Yeah. So for How to Cheer Up Dad for this book, I literally sold the book to Penguin Random House and I didn't know how to do color. I had to go find someone at Ringling School of Art and was like, hey, we're friends. Can you teach me how to do color? Because I got a book deal.
Oh, that's insane. I love it.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine everything being Easter. So
yeah,
that's too much pastels.
Yeah.
And you need some darker shades every now and again. All right. Let's do desert island food. Are you going pizza or tacos? You get one food. This one changes for me, but this is where I'm at right now. I'm going pizza. You're going taco. That's okay.
Yep.
That is okay. What is the dream taco?
Just the traditional, what is it? El Pastor. Pastor, yeah, with the little onions and cilantro and stuff on it.
Now, an area that you and I are going to differ on is I can't do the cilantro. I'm one of those that it tastes like soap too.
Poor guy.
It's okay. It's okay.
Right. I won't have you over for guacamole.
Oh man, my guacamole is 3 ingredients and none of them are cilantro. So.
But no, pizza is my first love. It's just that the doctor said that, you need to watch out for the blah, 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 blah. So
here's the deal. You're on a desert island. If it's a go big or go home situation.
Think about that. Doggone it. Oh, well.
That's more of an I'm here for a good time, not a long time situation.
Okay, fine.
All right. This one is, would you rather go out singing or go out dancing? And I will preface this with the singing and dancing doesn't have to be good. It's just what makes you happy. Here we go. I went singing.
I went singing. Yes.
Are you a vocalist? Is that a hidden thing that I don't know about?
I wouldn't say I'm any good at it, but me and my buddies do like to get together every once in a while with a couple of guitars and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll crank out some stuff.
What's your go-tos? Let's dig a little deeper here.
Well, if I'm gonna have to karaoke, it's gonna be country because that's what I grew up with.
Okay.
In Sebring, Florida. So it's gonna be Kenny Chesney, Zach Brown.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But we are not going there on the podcast.
You know what? For legal sake, I don't think I can pay for the royalties on that.
Perfect.
But
I don't think it would trigger though any AI recognition of the actual song.
You're not going for Wonderwall with your boys on the acoustics there?
No.
Okay.
The storytelling in country music is exceptional.
You know that country music is a genre that I've never really subscribed to, and more power for people that do. We've actually got some really good friends that like a year ago, they bought a boat. And so we've gone out on their boat with them a couple of times. And it's like the driver gets to pick the music.
Yes.
And it's just country the whole time. Seminole Wind.
Yes. Captain, by the way, not driver. You don't drive a boat. You captain a boat.
That's true. That's on me. Starboard. What else what's the other side of the boat?
Anchor? I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Yeah.
There is an anchor on the front, an engine in the back. That's about what I've got.
Yeah.
Port side. That's the other side. But yeah, it's just country, and I'm just like, all right, I'm here.
Yeah.
Let's keep it going.
Just lean into it. You'll be fine.
All right, no context. Unicorn or dragon? All right, I went dragon. You went dragon.
Yep.
Any reasoning there? More just
dragons eat unicorns.
But then they're cursed because you're not supposed to kill something so pure, according to Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. I don't know exactly. So.
Yeah, they were cursed to begin with, but they also have big piles of gold, and
that's true.
Yeah, nobody messes with them. Nobody wakes them up from their naps,
unless you're Smaug, and then things just go down. So
yeah.
I think that's the nerdiest this podcast is going to get today. All right. As far as design aesthetic, this is the last one here. Okay. How far? We got 2, 3. We're only missing one right now. I feel pretty good about that. We're 3 out of 4. All right. As far as design aesthetic, are you going rustic or modern? Are you going Joanna Gaines or are you going, can't think of anybody modern. Here we go. I went modern. You went modern. Look at us. We're so close to being the same person. And yes. I feel like the pizza one was a fluke. So
I didn't have my right thinking hat on. I was thinking about the longevity of life, and you were thinking about, dude, you're going to die pretty soon anyways. So yeah, we would have gone pizza.
Yeah, we'll get them next time.
Yeah.
This has been so much fun. Thank you so much for being here. Now there's people out there that they're going to want to find your books. They're going to find your art and your stories, or be a part of Reader Player One, etc.
Ready Chapter One.
Ready Chapter One. Yeah. Also, the book Ready Player One, fantastic.
It was good. Yes.
Pretty good book. But yeah, so if people want to connect with your communities, or if they want to connect with you, where's a great place for them to follow along or get to know you? Yeah,
so we can post social media links.
Everything's in the,
Yeah, everything will be there. But my website, my personal website for author, writer stuff is ilikefred.com. So just check out there. All my books are there with links to where you can find them for purchase. And then, readychapter1.com. That's where we're building community of creatives who have the same brand of crazy as I do.
I love that. Genuinely, like if you're out there and your dream or your hope is to write a book, find this community online. Having the right group of people around you changes everything. And so I'm grateful for you building that already. And I hope that, and I can't wait to see in 5-10 years, the things that come out of it that are shaping the world coming out of Lakeland, which is like a crazy thought too. So that's fun.
Yep. That's why we're doing it.
Well, everybody who's listening, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week here on Maybe You're Like Me.